Today we're going to be installing the Kooks headers and next pipe. And to do so, the first step is to remove the K-member underneath the engine. To do this, you need to jack the car up on all fours and remove the front two tires. The lug nuts on the front tires is going to be a 13th, 16th socket. I have an impact wrench to make that easier to take off. Next, we need to remove the tire rod from the spindle by removing this nut. We need to do this on both sides. Okay, since we finally got the tie rod disconnected from the spindle, the next step is to remove this ball joint from the spindle. So we're just going to remove this bolt and bring it down. A tip, since this is going to be stubborn, it took me a long time to get it finally undone, is hit the side of it, or you could gently tap the top of this to kind of get it going. I put some WD-40 on it. Another thing I tried was put my keys in the ignition, just so I can like freely turn it with the steering wheel, and just to kind of work in the WD-40, and that seemed to help out quite a bit. Finally got this ball joint removed from the spindle. Took a lot of elbow grease. What I did was turn the rotor out all the way like this and put my body weight pushing down. There's a lot of resistance because of the rubber bushing over there, okay? Okay, next we got to remove the bolt from the steering rod. I marked it with a permanent marker so we know how to put it back together. Next, we're going to remove these bolts to let this plastic piece hang down to give us more room to remove the K-frame. Okay, with that air dampener down, we're going to remove the lower K-member brace. Okay, we need to remove this plastic air dampener so we can get access to the lower K-member right here and right over here to take that off, because we need to get that removed to take off the main K-member. We got that other plastic air dampener off, and next we need to do is remove these two bolts on both sides to remove this lower K-frame because it mounts up to the radiator support beam. Now with the lower K-member removed, what we're going to have to do is remove these two electrical pins from the steering rack. Okay, next we need to loosen up the motor mounts, okay? So you got one on the driver's side, and one on the passenger side. Once the motor mount bolts are loose, use a jack stand to support the transmission. With the transmission supported, we can remove the motor mounts to remove the K-member. Okay, once you get the tranny and motor supported, we're going to be taking out two screws that were located here. And these two screws. And there's going to be 4 on each end, okay? And then once that's removed, take your time, see if you can't get someone to help you to lower this K-member down. Once you get the 2 bolts on each side of the wheel wells, put a jack underneath the K-member to support it, and then lower it down before you take the last ones out. And it makes it a whole lot easier. You only need 2 people, one person just to lower on the jack, another one just to kind of make sure it doesn't fall off. Right now we need to remove the 2 motor mounts. This is the one on the driver's side. There's going to be 4 bolts holding it in, 2 at the bottom, and there should be 2 up top. Just make special note that whatever side it comes from, that it goes back onto that side, okay? On the passenger motor mount, we got 2 additional bolts to take off. Looks like one's for grounding, the other one's maybe for like transmission fluid or something like that. We need to take those off to get the motor mount off. The passenger motor mount has been removed. Next we need to remove the starter to free up a little bit more room to take out the header. Once we're done with the starter, we're going to move to disconnecting any O2 lines and air fuel sensors on the H pipe. I'm going to take that out. Okay, I cannot get this one sensor detached from the clip, so what I'm going to do is undo the flanges on both sides and disconnect the H pipe at the back and lower it down so I can get my hands up in there to try to disconnect that switch. Okay, for this step I'm going to be taking the battery out. Everything's really tight underneath still, so hopefully this will give us a little bit more room to disconnect the H pipe. I think there's just going to be 3 bolts to undo, and so hopefully this little stand will come out. Okay, removing the battery stand, we have easy access to that EGR bunghole, and then we need to still get this bolt off the flange. That's the only bolt that's really hard to get off on the whole H pipe. Right here I got the EGR piping undone. I was able to get that top flange bolt off. What I had to do was lower the engine a little bit and use a really long extensions to get to it, because the clearance on it is horrible. We got the H pipe out. Had to get my friend Tony to get this plug undone. He was lucky and got it. And it's a 2-man job to drop this. On the driver's side header, to access the top nuts, I think it would be best to take out the air intake so it can come in from the top. It's a little bit hard to come in from the bottom from what I noticed, so we'll try this approach. Okay guys, I got the passenger side header in. The bolt's not torqued down or tightened, but all 8 stud bolts are in loose, keeping it up. So once I get them tight down, I'm going to take my EGR line, put it to that connection, and then be done with this side. This only took me seriously like 20 minutes once it was all apart. Okay, so it went by really freaking fast, really smooth, no bolts got snug up when trying to put them in the engine block. Everything went smooth so well. What I did was I coated the one side of the flange, or sorry, one side of the gasket that is going to be pressed up against the motor. Covered that with that copper anti-seize, and then I coated the inside part of the flange on the header with copper anti-seize, and then all the stud bolts I put some of that copper anti-seize just to make sure we get a good seal and doesn't get stuck on us later on down the road. Okay, we have a dilemma on the driver's side header. We have an oil line. I think it's going to the supercharger. That is going to be in the way with the driver header, okay? Since the driver header is just one big continuous flange, what I'm thinking is just taking it to a weld shop and have them cut out that middle piece, or possibly just grind it out a little bit. I don't think grinding out is going to be enough, because that's protruding out way too much. The only concern I have is once I remove that middle piece, if those pipes are in a bind at all, they're going to shift on me and they're not going to lie true. But I might just give Kooks a call and see what they have to say. Okay, that tube that was in the middle on the driver's side, it was not going to the supercharger. It was a damn dipstick tube, okay? So all you got to do to get that out is it's connected right here. So take that bolt out. I think it's an 8mm, and then just pull it out. Okay, it's like a press to fit right behind the oil filter into the pan, and there's an O-ring, so you just pull it out. It shouldn't take too much effort. Most of the effort is going to come once that releases, is trying to feed and snake it through this small little area. And then when you want to put it back in, when everything's installed, is put a little bit of oil on that O-ring and stab it back in and push down on it really hard, okay? Okay guys, I got the driver's side header in. The bolts are tightened up. I just got a wrench and just hand tightened them right now. I'm gonna torque them down here in 1 minute. Okay, as far as that little fuel sensor that goes in right here before the cats, I thought this was like way too short, right? And it is. And I thought this was for the O2 sensors, but it's not. The two extensions are for this guy, okay? One on each side. What I would recommend doing is, before you put the headers on, just to make it a tiny bit easier, is to install this, you know, clipping it in up top of the bell house, okay? And then put your headers on. But this driver's side was a little bit harder than the passenger side. I really had to like force it in, coming in like this side, like from the back to the front, just to get it in. And then besides that, that was the only really challenging part. Right here we have the passenger side headers on. Also got the driver's side headers on, torqued them down. I went to 30 foot-pounds. That's what I read on some of the forums. I only could torque down a few of the studs because everything else was really hard to get to. So what I did was get the feel of how tight I needed to go and then just tighten them to around, you know, that tightness, you know, by hand. I put the motor mounts on, the starter on. Right now you can see the X pipe. So what I did was, when the headers were tightened up, went through and started assembling it from the front to the back, okay? And then when I started tightening everything down after it looked level, I went from the back and started tightening to the front, okay? Besides that, everything went pretty smooth. There was a few snag ups I'm still trying to work through right now. We'll get to that here in 1 minute. Okay, one of the snag ups was that EGR line. It was not fitting up exactly right up here. It was too high. So what I did was bought a blowtorch, heated it up right in this area, and then bent it down by like maybe 1/4 of an inch. And it fit pretty well enough to start screwing the fittings down, okay? So what I did after bending it was started threading that fitting. Kept it loose, fitted it up, started threading that fitting, tightened both down. Okay, on the driver's side I ran into two problems. The first problem was the steering shaft. I can get my hand down here, you can see it right there. I had it up, out of the way, and it was past the header, so I couldn't snake it through the tubes. So that was the easy fix. Actually, what I did was disconnect the shaft itself from the steering wheel column. Can't really get up in there, but right up in here there's a 1 bolt. Take it out, the whole shaft will come out. You can slide it back, feed the shaft through the tubes, and then bolt it back up. Just make sure that you don't turn your steering wheel and kind of mess up the whole locking mechanism of it. The next item that's giving me fits is the dipstick tube. I'm having hell trying to get it back in, feeding it through the tubes themselves. I bent the living crap out of it, and nothing's working out. My best attempt was I got it right up to here into the oil pan, but after that it would not go in any further. What I'm going to do to try to pretty much solve this problem is get a flexible dipstick. If it works out, I'll leave the links down below. So cross your fingers and hopefully that thing will work out. But I need to get it ordered. It's going to take 2 to 3 days to get in. Since the factory dipstick didn't work out, I bought that flexible dipstick and it went in without a hitch. It seriously took 2 minutes to get it in, and it fit in snug. I measured and compared the stick itself in the tube and kind of the length of it to what the OEM was, and it was identical. So we're going to run with this, so hopefully it doesn't leak. It was a nice little snug fit, easy to pull out if you need to, so hopefully this works out. We'll let you know in the end when we start running this car more often, okay? Alright guys, you can see I shored one of the K-member bolts. This is on the driver's side. I shored at 70 foot-pounds. The torque spec on these is supposed to be 85, and that's based on CJ Pony Parts YouTube video when they did a BMR K-member install. So what I'm going to do is take this to the Ford dealership and have them fix it. Besides the K-member bolt being sheared, the car is running pretty well. Sounds nice. I took it to the gas station to get 93 octane. I took it easy because I was worried about, you know, the stresses on the K-member. So the only thing that kind of came up when I went to the gas station was the check engine light went off. And since the N gauge will tell you, you know, do a diagnostic and spit out the codes, it gave me 7 codes. And there's a few of them that were redundant, but all the codes were related to the engine was running rich. So I'm going to get with John Lund and see if he has any recommendations, or, you know, what the problem could be. It could be just as simple as the fuel ratio, O2 sensor that you want to call it. Maybe it's bad. I have no idea, but he might give us some guidance on what we need to do. But everything's going pretty good. It sounds nice. I'm going to try to post up a video soon on, you know, taking this on the highway, going wide open throttle, and just letting you guys hear what it sounds like. So please give me a like, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. This was a pain in the butt project. I recommend, you know, taking it to a shop to get the headers installed. But, you know, if you want to have some pride in the work you do in building your car, do it yourself. I mean, it's doable. So we'll talk to you guys later.